We've got major injury updates on Devils defenseman Dougie Hamilton, what that could mean for younger defensemen in the Devils pipeline, and certainly what it means for GM Tom Fitzgerald as the trade deadline approaches on Friday, March 7th at 3 p.m. We're going to break it all down for you here on Devils Digest. I'm your host, Ryan the Goose Gosiker, here with you, as always, having some fun, but I want to give you a chance first, before we get into the program, to be one of our first subscribers here on Devils Digest. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We'll get right into the show. Now, the Devils have been beaten, battered, and bruised every which way, physically, mentally, in games, off the ice, the last few weeks. You're talking about even the last few months, right? This team going into Christmas looked like a top 5, potentially top 3 NHL team, and you get excited, and they come out of Christmas and they've been flat. Jacob Markstrom gets hurt, Nico Hischier gets hurt, Jonas Siegenthaler gets hurt, Jack Hughes now out for the season with the shoulder injury, and the latest being Dougie Hamilton. And we received this update today, courtesy, of some of the reports that we're hearing that Hamilton could be week to week. The blows to this team just keep coming, and this roster just is beaten. This is like Rocky Balboa in Rocky 4 when he's fighting Drago, right? It's one of, if not the biggest pieces of Cold War propaganda that we've ever seen. But the point is Drago's the machine, and Rocky's just taking punch after punch after punch finally before he's able to punch back. Well, my question is when are the Devils going to be able to punch back? Because right now, I don't see it. And this team just keeps getting hit after hit after hit. Shimon Nemec was shaken up the other night. Curtis Lazar came up grimacing, right? And I know we're at the time of the year where kind of everybody's dealing with certain injuries and certain issues. But man, the Devils just feel like they are a walking ice bag right now. And they certainly are. And if they're going to miss Dougie, and again, this is the report saying that Hamilton will likely be week to week, which is just a disaster for the Devils. At this point, you only have 6 weeks left in the regular season. You're under 20 games to go. Certainly missing Hamilton week to week is not a recipe for success for New Jersey. And in particular, what they're missing here in a guy like Dougie Hamilton, you just see it, the assist total this year, the takeaways, the plus minus of being +9. Not really good with the giveaways. Obviously, you wish that number would be a little bit better, but the hits on the year, the block shots as well. Just, he's done kind of everything for this team, and unfortunately, he just gets caught by the injury bug. Now, what does that mean potentially for the Devils? Really, it's kind of up to the Devils at that point. I believe we got a report in here that Santeri Hatakka was pulled out of the Utica lineup. And, as you see the tweet here, I think it's kind of funny. I'm no mathematician, but given, what it said about Dougie's injury, the math is mathing, right? If Hatakka's not in the lineup and Dougie's going to be out for a while, it seems like Santeri Hatakka is finally going to get his opportunity back up here with the Devils. I thought he was good last year. He was hurt for the most part of this season. Then he got sent down to do some conditioning. Then we had the whole Nemec and Casey thing. Then who should be traded, this, that, and the other thing. Hatakka's kind of been lost in all of this. And, it would be exciting to see him get an opportunity up here, right? Because the Devils, quite frankly, need him. And they need some stability. And I think he's more of a defensive defenseman. I know defense is in the word. But the Devils seem to have a lot of guys that are like offensive men / defense. Like, they don't play a ton of defense. Guys like Luke Hughes is a much more offensive-minded player necessarily than he is defensive, but his metrics this year have been pretty good. But you look up and down the roster a little bit. Seamus Casey, certainly another one that's a more of an offensive-minded kind of guy. Brenden Dillon, Brett Pesce, Jonas Siegenthaler, those are your defensive-type players that the Devils are looking for. So Hatakka, again, we haven't seen him up here at the NHL level this year, but certainly with Hamilton out for the next, what seems to be few weeks, the math is mathing. It seems like Santeri Hatakka is coming up. Now, what I want to focus the rest of the video on is what does this mean for the Devils moving forward, and how do they go from here? Now, the one thing about the Jack Hughes injury, to remind people now that he went on long-term IR with the shoulder surgery season ending, we'll see him in September, that $8 million, we get to use that. Now, if you have a Vegas Golden Knight fan in your family or household or life, feel free to ask them how the long-term IR stuff works, because they've been exploiting it for the last few years with Markstrom. That's why he's actually a household name, is because of how they've been able to use long-term IR with his injuries. So, but the Devils have $8 million more in cap space with Jack Hughes going on long-term IR. And I believe if Dougie Hamilton goes, that number jumps substantially higher. I'm not exactly sure on what the exact figure is, but it will jump even higher than what you can imagine. And now you're saying, well, Goose, if the Devils are this banged up and the season's over, right? I mean, no Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton probably missing potentially the rest of the regular season. What is there really to do? And I think it's really interesting because the Devils are reportedly still in on the Mikko Rantanen. Now, the report necessarily was that the Devils have basically told Carolina, hey, if you're going to ship him out of town, give us a call. And, you just take a look at Rantanen's production. And obviously he's, that's the same number of points Jack Hughes had this year. So Rantanen's a good player, certainly has made his name in Colorado. The Carolina experiment hasn't necessarily always worked out, I think, the way that Carolina envisioned it. Also, the big controversy is really his contract and how it doesn't seem like he's willing to sign an extension with whatever team he's traded to. And that's where I want to go. That's where I want to really build this point. If you're Tom Fitzgerald, to me, you cannot justify just bringing in rentals. 1-year guys, for those who don't know, rentals are guys who are set to be unrestricted free agents come the summer after the season. So, you can't afford to give away valuable assets for these, you're getting these guys for potentially a month, 2 months max, right? Because we've talked about it. I don't think this Devils ceiling is anywhere near the Stanley Cup final. So you're at best case for the New Jersey Devils right now with what they have. You're looking at the end of April. So you're talking about maybe 2 months you're going to have with this player. To me, if you're the Devils, trading away anything valuable for that is unacceptable given the state of the team. Now, if you had Jack Hughes healthy, Dougie's healthy, Siegenthaler looks like he's on the mend, and you want to go for it, you want to get a Rantanen type player, you want to get like a Brock Nelson type, sure, go in, go get it, go after it, right? But the Devils at this point, and it's hard to say, right? Because I don't think you can be all in buyers the way some other teams are going to act during the trade deadline. But you can't sit still or sell. I just don't see it, right? Because really the contracts that you're looking to sell would be guys like Ondrej Palat, Erik Haula, potentially a Dawson Mercer trade, but I think he's more in the Shimon Nemec area of like, hey, they have some value, like we need something in return. But those are the contracts, Haula and Palat, that you're trying to get out of. And, the no moves and contract stuff is so complicated in the NHL. These guys could potentially, I think Haula has a no move, or he doesn't have a no move until next year, whatever it may be. It's not easy to move these guys. And second of all, even if they're able to be traded at will, who wants them? Who wants them based on what they've seen, right? Erik Haula, we talked about it. I feel like you're going to throw up when I say it again. Erik Haula has not scored a point since Thanksgiving. And then in this Dallas game, all he had to do to get his team a singular point in the standings was win a faceoff. He could not do it. The Devils lose that heartbreaker. We're not even going to resurface that. But the point being, it's just not enough. And Palat for $6 million is just not cutting it. And the Devils need to find a way out of that contract probably in the summer. But to summarize, if I am Tom Fitzgerald, I cannot go after rentals. If you bring in players to this system, they need to have term, which means they need to have more than just a contract that ends at the end of this season, right? You need at least next year as well, potentially maybe even 2 years of term, of control as well. I don't think, maybe if you're getting a rental but you're getting rid of Palat's contract, that's a different story. But to trade guys like a Nemec or a Dawson Mercer for a rental, to me, is just unacceptable at this point, at this juncture, given the injury circumstances that we touched upon at the beginning of the video. Dougie Hamilton, Jack Hughes, Jonas Siegenthaler, all done, right? And who knows about Siegenthaler, see if we can get an update anytime soon. But obviously Dougie doesn't look good, and obviously Jack's done. He's had the surgery. So to me, you can't be reckless. However, you need to upgrade this roster. And I found this tweet very interesting that I had to bring it up. And because James Nichols here details the why. Why should the Devils continue to upgrade this roster? You have to understand, hockey is not tank city like basketball and baseball can be, right? Or even sometimes football. I don't think they really tank in football. The players certainly don't. The front offices obviously have some decisions to make. Hockey is not a sport you can tank in. And by the way, how poorly the Devils are and how poorly they've played, the Devils are in a playoff spot with a month to go in the regular season. 6 weeks to go in the regular season. Less than 20 games left in the regular season. They have to make a push. You owe it to the guys on the screen that James is talking about. The Nico Hischiers, the Jesper Bratts, the Timo Meiers, guys like that who are the core of what the Devils are at. And you can argue about the Meier thing. Listen, the guy's getting paid $8.8 million. He better be part of the core. He is tied to those guys, because he's going to be here for a while. So the Devils owe it to these guys on the roster to build the roster and continue to upgrade it, but not in a reckless rental abandon. That's how I look at it. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment for us. Let us know what you think about the content overall, but specifically the Devils, as we are mere hours away from the trade deadline. Devils will not take the ice before the trade deadline, so when they suit up Friday night against Winnipeg, we will know what direction this team is going and where Tom Fitzgerald decides to go. So I want to thank you all for listening, watching, either or. Doesn't matter to me. I just appreciate you tuning into the content. And we do here at Devils Digest. So I want to give you a chance to be one of our first subscribers here on the channel. Hit that subscribe button for me and be one of our first subscribers. But I'm your host, Ryan the Goose Gosiker, here, trying to bring you all the best, latest content surrounding the Devils. Stay tuned. The next 2 days could get very wonky. Okay, just be ready for a lot of sudden change and all that good stuff. So we'll catch you next time on Devils Digest. I'm your host, Ryan the Goose Gosiker. Have a great day, everybody.